Welcome to the MCDFNL Footy Show for another week. Sean Kelly's my name. Joining me, as he does every week in the co-host chair, Sam Gowers. Sam, welcome back, mate.
Thank you, mate.
And joining me, as he does every other week when he's not playing indoor soccer, the MCDFNL Operations Manager, Scott Carey. Scotty, welcome, mate.
Thanks, Sean.
How did the indoor soccer go last week?
Yeah, had a good win. Got the boys over the line into the granny. Probably a best on ground performance from myself, to be honest.
I actually heard something along those lines, so it was worth missing the show for?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, very good. As long as it was worthwhile, that's all we need. Boys, we're going to jump straight into this because we've got a huge show this week. It's Women in Football round, of course, throughout the MCDFNL, and we've got Lexton Club President Rachel Phelan, who, of course, one of the A-grade netball stars for the Tigers as well, joining us later on in the show. We need your tips, Sammy, because you're struggling at the moment, and people out there need some inspiration as to who not to tip this weekend, so we'll get those later in the show as well. And we're also going to talk about Campbell's Creek's big weekend that they've got this weekend. It's their 150th anniversary celebrations, and we'll talk more about that throughout the show. But firstly, let's have a look at last week's games, starting with Campbell's Creek. And unfortunately for Creek, it wasn't the best day at the office for them because they travelled out to Hedges Oval and got beaten by Royal Park, Bushy's third win for the season, 7-14-56, defeating Campbell's Creek 2-3-15. All single goal kickers on the day from both sides, as we can see on the screen at the moment. Best players for Royal Park: O'Connor, Blake, Iglesias, Shelton, Gray and Tack. And for Campbell's Creek, Prendergast, Bradford, Climac, Moss, O'Toole and Adamson. Campbell's Creek probably would have started as favourites in this one, but full credit to Royal Park, their third win for the season, and they've done it pretty emphatically in the conditions.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's a surprise win, but I'm pretty surprised at the margin. Bushy obviously went all right in the wet, and they'd be very happy with that win, I'd imagine.
Yeah, really good win. Royal Park, they showed a bit at the start of the season, Scotty. They won 2 of their first 3 games, and then it's taken them until now to get that third victory on the board. And I suppose it's come at a good time because they'll be starting to look towards 2014, and Greg Stewart will be starting to look for those players that he knows that he can turn into senior players from next year onwards, and getting some confidence in the club's crucial during that period.
Yeah, that's right, mate. It's all about getting a couple more wins for the rest of the year and building some momentum for next year. And they've had a fantastic year so far. I don't think anyone questions that. And another good win on the weekend. These are the ones they need to win, and I'm sure there's probably a couple more winnable ones towards the end of the year.
We'll talk more about Campbell's Creek later on in the show. As we said, their big 150th anniversary celebration this weekend against Harcourt. Natty Bialaba taking on Malden. Sammy, your boys have got a pretty good scalp on the weekend as well. Natty 12-7-79 defeated Malden 5-22-52. We'll talk about that in a second. Natty Bialaba 3 goals each to Perez and Stagg, and 2 each to Lockie Cameron and Mark Fitzgerald. All singles for Malden: Kelly, Trevin, Gaddy, Kyle and Fitzpatrick. For Natty, their better players: Gifford, Long, Stagg, Perez, Jardine and Greco. And for Malden, Birchall, Kelly, Horn, Kinross, Gatti and Pascoe. Good win by Natty Bialaba, but they've won a game where they've had 10 less scoring shots than their opposition. Malden must be absolutely kicking themselves.
Wow, well, it does look like Malden's been inaccurate, but 9 of those behinds were actually rushed. So it's not as bad.
Having
as it
said
looks.
that still gives them the same number of scoring shots. In fact, 1 more than Natty.
It does, but they're not off target necessarily. I know Shane Green pretty happy with Natty getting a win in pretty sloppy conditions over at Malden, very wet.
And a good job by Natty, especially early on in the game. They kicked 6 goals, 1 in the first half, where Malden were 2 goals, 14. As you said, some of that not necessarily in accuracy, but rushing as well. But I suppose it's good to, to use a cliche, make hay while the sun shines in conditions such as that on the weekend.
No sun was shining whatsoever.
None at all?
Wet, hail, mud, disgusting.
Good day out at Malden.
Lovely.
Let's move on and have a look at the next game, boys. Newstead taking on Lexton, and this was a huge game because this could very well be a game that decides a top 4 spot at the end of the season. And it was Newstead getting themselves back on the track in the wet conditions. 6-7-43, the Steaders defeating Lexton 2-7-19. 2 goals to Matty Colviner, and we're going to talk about Matty Colviner later on because we've had a photo flick through of Matty Colviner that we need to discuss. He was the only multiple goal kicker on the day. Lexton, their 2 goals came from Chester and Polton. Best for Newstead: Wall, Webster, Entwistle, Tanner and Hunter. Have a go at Nico's name for me, Scotty.
Katiki?
Takataki, that's what we need. Beautiful work. Lexton's better players: Carslake, Morrish, Fisher, Jennings, Johnson and Hind. Before we get into this game, there's a photo up on the screen at the moment, lads. Matty Colviner's sports bag. Absolutely terrible. something that has been pointed out by actually MCDFNL President Peter Kerr. I'll throw him under the bus. He sent me through the photo. That is the worst sports bag I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's not great, Shawnee, and that's the stuff we want to see on the show. If you've got anything similar, send it through.
Give us more of that, Sean at ballaratfl.com.au. Just get it onto us. But back onto this game, really important game for Newstead to get really strong in the first half. 5 goals to Lexington's none. They did it without Daniel Christmas featuring in his scoreboard.
Yeah, that's right. Pretty good back maybe have this one over top 4 and finals.
Interesting couple of weeks coming up for Lexington now, Sammy, because they're still in the top 4. They're now equal the points up in the top 4. The percentage is really good, but it's not that to worry about. They've got some games coming up against contenders. Really, Lexington just need to keep winning from here on in, or they will fall over that trouble spot.
Yeah.
Indeed, one of the teams, as we just mentioned, that will be coming up against Lexington, hoping to pinch that 4th spot on the ladder, is the Harcourt Footy Club, who had a good win on the weekend against Avoca, travelling out to Avoca and getting the job done. 11-10-76, defeating Avoca 8-8-56. Good win by the Lions. Newton, Geary and Trethowan all kicking 3 goals each for Harcourt. Murray Bond 4 for Avoca and Jesse Britton 3 as well, leading the way for the Dogs. Better players for Harcourt: Chaplin, Davis, Purdon, Newton, McKay and Ling. And for Avoca, Edwards, Wiltshire, Bond, Britton, Martland and Nankerville. Really good job done by Harcourt here, Scotty. They look like they're on the right track.
Yeah, another really good win, Shawnee. They keep doing what they have to. Paul Chaplin seems to be flying under the radar again for most sides, and he's the league best and fairest, so I'll be watching him. And Chris Davis keeps performing as the big ruckman. He's had a fantastic year, so another good win, and yeah, keeps him in that top 4 spot.
Where to now for Avoca, Sammy? They're still within that. Obviously, they're still within the top 8. They've got a game over Talbot at the moment, but they're another side that they just need to keep winning. Not so much to get themselves in the finals, but get some form up before the finals if they do get there.
Yeah, they're probably one of the lower sides in that top 8, and yeah, like you said, they need to build up some form ahead of finals. They've let a couple of games slip this season that they could have won, and yeah, they need to get a bit more form.
Maryborough Rovers took on Navarre on the weekend, and they were probably hoping it was Denali because it was a huge win by Navarre, 32-22, 214. How do you kick 32 goals in those conditions at all? Defeating Maryborough Rovers 1 goal straight 6. Chris Brennan 11 goals for Navarre on the weekend. Huge outing for Chris. Ben Scott 5 as well. Nick Murphy and Luke Hendy kicked 3 each, as did Aaron Slorick and Brent Flood 2 for Navarre. Just the 1 goal. Ray Bolger booted the goal in the opening quarter for the Rovers. Best for Navarre: Hendy, Louis Hannett, Chris Brennan, Flood, Tickner and Chettle. And for the Rovers: Sellers, Stiles, Ritchie, Kennedy, Gunn and Nelson. Bit of an exclamation mark this one, Sammy, by Navarre. They got some players back into the side and really put the foot down against the Rovers.
Yeah, nice percentage booster. Like you said, 32 goals in those sorts of conditions, just amazing.
Was indeed. Talbot taking on Denali. Now, this was a game at 3/4 time that very much looked in the balance. Denali 8 points up at Talbot, and Talbot's season really hanging on the line in that last quarter, and they came out like they knew that as well. They booted 10 goals to 1 in the last quarter for what's been described as one of the better wins around the parts in Talbot for quite some time. The Hawks 18-4, 112, defeating Denali 9-9-63. Josh Sullivan, fantastic for the Hawks with 6 goals. Andrew Harry kicked 4, Clark 3 and Trent Barris 2. For Denali, Joey Thompson kicked 3 goals, Ben Perry and Paul Edwards kicked 2 each. Best for Talbot: Clark, Prentice, Sullivan, Smith, Clark and McRedmond. And for Denali, Jackson, Thompson, Raven, Hughes and Ballinger, as we hear something from the cheap seats. Scott Carey, a really good win by Talbot on the weekend.
Yeah, a bit of commentary out the back there from the great man Liam Brady. But very good win from Talbot. Keeps them on track, and 10 goals in the last quarter coming from behind. It's not easy to do, and they've done it very well. So well done to them, and it probably hurts a bit for Denali, but I'm sure they'll bounce back for the rest of the year.
I'm sure they will. And we look at Sunday's game, and it was a trip out to Trentham for the Carisbrook boys. They probably weren't expecting to see snow on the ground when they arrived at Trentham, but they did because it was extremely cold and the snowflakes came in early at Trentham on the weekend. But it didn't stop the Carisbrook Express, and more importantly, it didn't stop our mate Big Nath, because Carisbrook got the win very comfortably, 24-18, 162, defeating Trentham 5 behinds for the day. Nathan Wright, 12 goals. Get around him, has shot to the top of the MCDFNL's goal-kicking chart. Nick Wright kicked 5 as well, and Big Jackson Bowen, 2 goals for Carisbrook. Better players for the Brook: Wright, Kick, Hudson Morgan, Bilton, Tracy and Furness. And for Trentham, Gray, Drew, Can, Smith, Whelan and Cutler. Good performance by Carisbrook, and when you see names like Wright, Tracy, Kick, Hudson Morgan and Bilton all in the best players for Carisbrook, you know that they're going pretty well.
Yeah, they're travelling along all right, aren't they? Nath would be pretty happy to be on top of the goal kickers table. I'm sure he's let a few people know about that.
I'm sure he has. In fact, I was waiting for something to come through on Twitter on Sunday night, but I didn't see anything.
Yeah,
so
it might still be coming on.
Could
so
be, could
he's probably
be.
still thinking one up. But yeah, like you said, Carisbrook just unstoppable at the moment.
Let's have a look at the ladder, gentlemen, after 12 rounds of MCDFNL action. And Carisbrook, as you mentioned, Sammy, unstoppable at the moment. 12 wins, top of the ladder, looking like they have one hand on the minor premiership already. Navarre sit 2 games behind them in second spot with 10 wins. They've got a game on Newstead in third spot with 9 wins for the season. Then 2 sides on 8 wins and 4 losses. Lexington and Harcourt. As you can see, there's a big percentage gap between the 2 teams, though. Lexington 173, Harcourt 111. So the teams below Lexington have to rely on Lexington losing games and them winning to overtake them. It's not going to be a percentage thing. 6th, 7th and 8th all tied on 7 wins as well. They are Natty, Bialaba, Avoca and Malden. Natty with the best percentage out of those 3 sides. Talbot sitting in 9th spot. They're still well and truly in the hunt, as you can see, just a game behind the pack. Royal Park in 11th spot. Campbell's Creek in 10th. Skipped over top Campbell's Creek. Not great to do. Royal Park in 11th, as we mentioned. Denali in 12th. Trentham in 13th. And the Rovers in 14th position on the ladder. Let's quickly talk about Campbell's Creek, gentlemen, because they have a huge week this week. It's their 150th anniversary, and I don't think there'd be too many clubs, Scott Carey, not just in the league, but going around, that would be able to celebrate 150 years of football.
Nah, certainly not, Sean. It'd be a fantastic day for the club, and it sounds like they've got a couple of things planned for that night and the following day, and make it a really good weekend for the whole club, including all the families and a lot of past players coming back to support the club. So we are really keen to get a good win on the weekend to celebrate. Yeah,
we can see the details on the screen now. They've got their ball on Saturday night, their gala ball, and I actually hear that if you want a ticket to the gala ball at the moment, you've got to go on a waiting list and hope that someone pulls out, because they've sold out.
Wouldn't be too many waiting lists for a club ball.
Wouldn't have thought. But that's a fantastic effort, and Sunday the family day out at Campbell's Creek as well, Sammy, and that's open to everybody. So head down to the Campbell's Creek rooms from 11 o'clock and enjoy a family day out there. And of course, some really good highlights throughout the Campbell's Creek Football Club history. The highest scorer in the history of football, kicking 100 goals in the one game. So some really good stuff that they've got to celebrate this weekend.
Yeah, it'd be great for Campbell's Creek, especially after a couple of years ago we all know they went into recess, and to bounce back as strongly as they have is a real credit to everyone at the club.
Yeah, they're doing okay too this year. As we heard, they lost on the weekend, but they've been very competitive all throughout the year. It's also a Women in Football round this weekend in the MCDFNL, and we actually caught up with we've called her during the interview, one of the preeminent women in the MCDFNL, the president of the Lexington Football Club and one of their A-grade netball stars, Rachel Phelan. Welcome back to the MCDFNL Footy Show. Time to talk netball this week, and joining me to do so, we thought we'd better get a netball expert in. So we've got the president of the Lexington Football Netball Club, Rachel Phelan, with us. Rachel, welcome to the Footy Show.
Thank you.
And let's have a look through last week's results before we get into the nitty-gritty of the interview, because, of course, it is Women in Football round, and that's why we've got you on the show. But before we'll do that, we'll talk some netball. So let's have a look at last week's games. Royal Park 49, defeating Campbell's Creek 14. Good performance by Bushy.
Yeah, it was. Quite a good win for them, so they'll be happy with that.
Big game at the top end of the ladder as well. I dare say one that you'll have kept a fairly close eye on between Malden and Natty Bialaba, with Natty getting over the line 40-30. Ash Edwards again, fantastic for Natty Bialaba, as she has been all season. And Paige Douglas has been in some forming goals in recent weeks with 26 goals again this week.
Yeah, she's performing quite well for them, and it was a upset, I would say. We were expecting Molden to win that one.
Yeah, I think the way that Molden's been going this year, they would have gone in as favourites. But having said that, Natty's only lost the 2 games for the year, and they've been, especially after the mid-season break, the interleague break, they've been in very, very good form.
Yes, they have. Yes.
A game that you probably don't want to bring up all that much as you faced the up and down Newstead, and you got them on the up end of their roller coaster, and unfortunately went down 48-38. Good performance by Alex Dempster in goals, 28 goals and best on court, and she's really made a difference since she's come into the Newstead side.
Yeah, she definitely is the dominant goalie there. We couldn't stop her, and we didn't handle the wet conditions very well. So something to try and work on.
Good to see Julie Anderson in the best players again, who of course is one of our 17 and under reps from our interleague side, who has played a lot of A-grade netball with you in defence this year.
Yeah, no, she's going quite well. Obviously it's her last year in 17, so we're developing her.
Yep.
And she'll be a very nice player.
Harcourt taking on Avoca in a close game this one. Harcourt getting over the line 34-28. Good win by Harcourt, keeping them well and truly in the top 8 mix.
Yeah, definitely a close one. I think we were thinking Avoca might take that one out, but yeah, they just missed out on that one.
Navarre, a big win against Maryborough Rovers, 73-32 the score in this one. Taylor Mason, 49 goals again for Navarre, and Navarre keep going from strength to strength, and in the process probably ended the Rovers' finals chances.
Yeah, Navarre's definitely the one to beat this year, and they're having a very good season.
Talbot taking on Denali. Denali back onto the winners list, 57-13. Ash Lyric back into the side for Denali after her overseas jaunt, and straight away best on court, and she makes a difference to that Denali side, who have obviously come back from losing 4 in a row.
Yeah, Ash is a key player for them, and yeah, they would have been glad to have her back.
And the last game of the round played on Sunday out at a snowy Trentham from what I've heard. Carisbrook 97 taking on Trentham 17. Good win by Carisbrook. Beck Lovett 60 goals on the weekend and Shayla Bandy 37 in a dominant performance for Carisbrook that moved them into the top 4.
Yeah, well, them winning by such a big margin and us losing kicks us out of the top 4 now, so we have to try and work hard to get back in.
And we mentioned the ladder. Let's have a quick look at it. As you can see on the screen at the moment, Navarre on top, 12 wins, undefeated for the season. They're 2 games ahead of both Molden and Natty Bialaba in 2nd and 3rd spot. 4th spot, Carisbrooks now, as we just mentioned. They're actually a game clear of Lexton, who have 8 wins, sitting in 5th spot. They're a game clear of Newstead in 6th with 7 wins, and then Denali and Harcourt both with 6 wins in 7th and 8th spot. Avoca and Royal Park just outside the top 8, both with 5 wins for the season. Maryborough Rovers with 3 wins in 11th. Trentham in 12th with 2 wins. Talbot 13th with the 1 win, and Campbell's Creek yet to open their account for the season. Rach, the reason we've got you in here, as we know, it's Women in Football round this week, and we've invited you in as, of course, one of the female presidents in the MCDFNL. Tell us a little bit about how you came to be the president of the Lexington Football Netball Club.
I was pretty much at a committee meeting, or the AGM, and no one seemed to be putting their hand up, and I got convinced to take on the role and got re-elected again this season.
Yep. How do you find the role? Obviously, it's something fairly busy when you're combining full-time work with presidency of a football club and everything like that. How much time does it take up during the week for you?
Not too much. I'd say my first season, that's all I did. This year, I've also taken on the marketing sponsorship role.
Yep.
And that's taking up a lot more time.
Don't do too good at that, otherwise you'll take my job.
But yeah, no, I'm finding myself a lot busier this season than last season, but it keeps you busy enough.
It would indeed. And tell us a little bit about, because went down to a Lexington match day earlier this year and you played in the A grade. I think you umpired the B grade. You were running around organising everything else. Match days must be really hectic for you.
Yeah, I don't really get a lot of time to sit down and watch football or netball. It's always umpiring netball, sorting things out, making sure people are doing their jobs if they're not. But one day I'll get time to sit down and watch.
That'd be good. And of course, your husband plays senior football down at Lexington as well, Jordan. And did you meet him through the club?
No, I met him through uni.
Okay, beautiful. And went down to the club together kind of thing?
Yes,
Yeah,
through
awesome.
His family relatives, got to say.
Should have done some research before I came in, but really a good story. So, do you see yourself long term in the kind of role that you're in at the moment with Lexington?
I think I'm doing a good job. So, from what I've been
You are.
told,
You are. We're telling you. Don't worry, you're doing a good job.
So I'd say that as long as they're happy, they'll probably keep me in the role.
That's a good
I'm
thing.
happy to do.
You're happy to do that?
Yes.
Fantastic. And of course, we celebrate women in football around this week, and we've got yourself and Kerry Palmer from Campbell's Creek that are female presidents within the MCDFNL, but there's so many unsung ladies behind the scenes within the clubs and everything like that we see volunteering and just do a fantastic job in helping keep the clubs running.
Yes, there's a lot of females behind the scenes that you don't hear about. Our treasurer is a female.
Yep.
We've got our netball managers as well. So lots of girls behind the scene at Lexton.
How are things looking on and off the field? Obviously, we see both football and both senior football and A-grade netball sides appear destined for the finals again this year. So pretty good vibe around the Lexton Footy Club at the moment.
Yeah, all our senior clubs are going. Teams are going quite well.
Yep.
Still trying to work our way back into the top 4. So hopefully we can all get in the top 4 to get that second chance come finals.
And how's the junior progression through footy and netball within the club as well? I know that there's been extra grades of football and junior netball introduced this year. So how have you found that you're attracting the juniors to Lexton?
Well, we got our under 12s. They're quite small at the moment, so a lot of development there.
Mm-hmm.
We're hoping that we can recruit some older kids through Beaufort Primary School, amphitheatre, that sort of schooling.
Yep.
To maybe field an under 15 side for next year. We unfortunately lost under 15s netball because of the girls' age groups.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully we can get that back for next season.
We'll have a chat to the netball manager after this and see what we can do.
That's right.
We'd have a chat to her on there, but she doesn't want to come on, so we'll leave that question for off screen. So,
Yes.
Doing a fantastic job up at Lexton at the moment, Rach. And look, on behalf of the MCDFNL, we thank you for all the work that you do, and of course that Kerry Palmer does at Campbell's Creek as well. And I suppose being one of our preeminent women in football, so to speak, but I suppose we're talking on behalf of all of the women that are involved with clubs and with the MCDFNL as well. We just really appreciate the job that obviously you and all of the women do to help keep our league as strong as it is.
Thank you.
Well, let's have a look at this week's A-grade netball games. We're going to put you on the spot before we go. Don't worry about that. We're going to get some tips off you. Starting with your game, would you believe? Lexton taking on Avoca this weekend, and it actually becomes a really crucial game for both sides because you're going bat out of hell to try and get in the top 4, and Avoca will be red hot to try and get themselves back in the top 8.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a good game. We always find it hard against Avoca. I think last time we played them, I think we only won by a goal. I don't think it matters where you are on the ladder when you play them. It's always going to be a tough match, but I'm hoping we get out on top. Newstead
taking on Royal Park, and it's almost a case of which Newstead will show up.
Yes. I think Newstead should win this one. If they play like they did last week, they should definitely get over the line.
Navarre taking on Malden. Really good test for Malden. Obviously, they had Natty Bielaba last week, couldn't get over that one. But I suppose if they want to win finals, they have to beat Navarre at some stage during the season. So, really good test to see where the Bombers are at.
Yeah, that's going to be a great game to watch. I think Navarre will be too good, though. With the likes of Jess and Taylor in goals, they really need to shut those two down. So,
Need to shut the ball down through the mid-court. Jess Williamson's so good at feeding those goals as well. They really need to stop the supply down to them.
Yes, she's a good little player.
Natty Bielaba taking on the Maryborough Rovers. Good win by Natty last week, and they'll start as favourites in this one.
Oh, definitely Natty for that one.
Carisbrook taking on Talbot again. You'd think that Carisbrook would start favourites in this, which probably isn't something that you guys at Lexton want to hear all that well.
No, but yeah, Carisbrook should win easily over Talbot.
Campbell's Creek taking on Harcourt. As we know, it's a huge weekend for Campbell's Creek this weekend with their 150th celebrations. However, I've got a feeling that come the A-grade netball side of things, Harcourt are going to spoil the party.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think Harcourt will spoil their party, but the Campbell's Creek girls always seem like they're having fun, so they'll continue the celebrations that night, I think.
And the next day as well, don't worry about that. And Denali taking on Trentham in the last game of the round, and Denali back on the winners list last week, and you can't see that really changing this week.
No, Denali definitely will win that one, I'm sure.
Well, Rachel, it's been an absolute pleasure having you with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Not a problem.
Best of luck for this weekend and for the rest of the season trying to get back into that top 4.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we'll definitely bring the camera out at some stage and catch up with some of the Lexton girls on the court. We'll try, I reckon, a couple of weeks against Malden. That might be a good game to come out and have a look because I think that could be a top 4 deciding game for you.
Yes, yep.
Rachel Phelan from the Lexton Football Netball Club. It's time to talk tipping in the football side of the MCDFNL. We're going to come back right after this with all of the tips from Sam Gowers and Scott Carey. Rachel Phelan from the Lexton Football Netball Club. It's time to talk tips, gentlemen. We're going to get them straight off the bat. Lexton taking on Avoca in the first game this week, which is pretty crucial game for both clubs as Lexton looks to keep the hold on their top 4 spot and Avoca look to cement their top 8 spot, Sammy.
Lexington for me easily in this one.
Easily.
Easily.
Big statement. Lexington haven't been good in the last couple of weeks.
No, they bounce back.
Yeah, I'll have to go with Sammy Shawn at home. And like you said, probably an important game for both, but I think more for Lexington to really shoot that top 4 spot. So, yeah, I'll go easy as well.
Yeah, I reckon Lexington, but I don't know about easy. I reckon Avoca have shown a bit in the last couple of weeks, and they'll take it up to the Tigers. On Saturday, Newstead taking on Royal Park at Newstead, and the Steaders would start pretty warm favourites in this one, Sammy.
Yeah, deservedly so. Newstead for me.
Good one for Royal Park, I think, as well. Like we said earlier in the program, with them looking to finish the year strongly and looking forward to next year. But Newstead will win, but yeah, it'll be a good game, I think.
Navarre taking on Maldon, and this will be a good game of football. Sam Gowers out at Navarre against a Maldon side that'll be looking to rebound after a pretty inaccurate performance last week.
Yeah, it'd be a good one to have a look at, actually, but I'm going to say Navarre. Just.
Yeah, I'll go Navarre, but if Maldon any chance, they will need a kick straight this week, surely.
Yeah, they will indeed. Navarre getting some players back into the side as well in recent weeks. Natty Bialabet taking on the Maryborough Rovers. This could be a chance for you to make a senior debut this week, Sammy.
No, not a chance, but Natty a big chance to win.
Big chance?
Big chance.
Yeah, Natty for me, surely.
Yeah, Natty for me as well. Carisbrook taking on Talbot, and Talbot's season's still hanging by a thread, and it's not going to get much easier this week travelling out the Brook.
No, like we said before, Carisbrook travelling pretty well, and I'm going to go with them.
Yeah, probably not what Talbot needed coming up against top of the side when they're a game out of the 8 and really needing to win most of the rest of the games to get in. Tough ass, and Carisbrook to win.
Interesting game out at Denali on the weekend as the Eagles host Trentham, and obviously we know that both sides aren't up the top of the ladder at the moment. Trentham coming off a week where they didn't kick a goal, they'll be looking to save some face, and they'll fancy themselves as a bit of a chance against Denali.
They will, but I think Denali's shown a bit in the second half of the season, and I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Yeah, Denali have improved steadily over the season, probably a bit more than Trentham, so Eagles to win.
Yeah, Denali for mine as well. In the last game of the round, their big game out at Campbell's Creek, their 150th celebrations. Campbell's Creek taking on Harcourt, and you couldn't imagine anything but Campbell's Creek lifting for this one in front of a crowd of past players and supporters, and it should just be a huge crowd at Creek. Harcourt, though, they're good at spoiling parties, and they've got the cattle to do it.
Yeah, I think they'll rain on the Creekers parade, unfortunately, so I'm going to back Harcourt.
Yeah, they definitely want to show a bit this week, Campbell's Creek. No better time to do it, but I think Harcourt are playing too well this year, and they should get the chocolates.
Look, you think Creek will be up and about for this one for probably just after half time, because Harcourt's that kind of side that they'll be clinical, I reckon. They'll just do what they need to do, and they'll pull away towards the end of the game to the victory. But Creek will definitely give their fans something to cheer about, I reckon, especially in the first half.
Harcourt have to be wary of Creek's start. I know they didn't do much last week against Royal Park, but they have kicked upwards of 7, 8, 9, 10 goals in some games this year. So I mean, if they get a start like that on the weekend, who knows what will happen.
Yeah, that's right. We actually picked this as a danger game for Harcourt at the start of the season when we're looking at our reviews, which we might bring out of the closet next week, Scotty. We might dust them off, and with the split round next week, we might have a look back at the previews that we did after round 6 and see how they're holding up after round 13. And
get rid of Gowers for that, Sean. You didn't have much input.
You didn't have much input at all.
You two can take the blame for that.
What we might do is we might look at them, and if you're here, Sammy, you can tell us where we've gone wrong and why we've gone wrong.
Plenty of spots where you've done that.
Well, I actually don't know about that. We'll see what's happening with it. There is a couple, obviously. I think we picked Newstead to go through undefeated or something like that. And we know that hasn't happened, but that's a chat to have next week, ladies and gentlemen. It's a big week coming up this week in the MCDFNL. Enjoy it. We'll be back next Thursday afternoon with more MCDFNL Footy Show. We'll see you then.